Captain Jarek Thorne stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Resolve, watching the crimson clouds of Erythra's atmosphere swirl below. The mining colony on the planet had been under constant attack from the Virelian Empire for weeks. Jarek, a seasoned officer in the human frontier forces, had faced countless battles. But something about this mission felt different. The air was thick with tension, as if the planet itself knew the storm that was coming. Captain. Sensors detect a Virelian convoy approaching from the northern ridge, Lieutenant Mara Vance said, her fingers flying across the control panel. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed worry. Jarek's jaw tightened. Prepare for intercept. I want minimal casualties on our side. These are skilled fighters, they won't go down easy. He paused, glancing at the viewfinder. The distant glint of alien ships reflected in the thin atmosphere, sleek and menacing. As the convoy drew closer, Jarek reviewed the plan. A strike team would land near the convoy's path, disable the enemy's vehicles, and extract any critical intelligence. They had orders to eliminate all hostiles, but Jarek had learned long ago that war was never that simple. The shuttle landed with a soft thrum, dust rising in clouds around the team. Jarek led his squad, weapons ready. The convoy was lightly defended, but the aliens moved with precision. Suddenly, a cry cut through the air, a small, terrified sound unlike the grunts or roars of adult Virelians. Jarek froze. Hold position, he ordered. He scanned the nearby wreckage and spotted a small, shivering figure hiding behind a transport container. It was a child, no more than 6 by human standards, with iridescent skin and wide, frightened eyes. Captain, it's a Virelian child, Mara whispered. Jarek's heart tightened. He knew the rules. They were to eliminate all enemy personnel. But the child's fear, its innocence, made something inside him rebel. He had seen too many young lives lost to follow orders blindly. Bring him with us, quietly, Jarek said, his voice firm. No one else can see him yet. The squad hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. Jarek stepped forward, crouching to meet the child's gaze. You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you, he said. The child's eyes widened in disbelief. Then slowly, it nodded. The team moved carefully, shielding the child from view as they extracted information from the convoy. Despite the danger, Jarek felt a strange sense of clarity. Protecting this child wasn't just the right thing to do, it was the only thing a human could do in the face of war. Back on the Iron Resolve, Jarek set up a secure area for the child. He watched as it explored hesitantly, touching the consoles and blinking at the unfamiliar human technology. There was a sharp intelligence in its eyes, a curiosity that reminded him of his own childhood. Captain, we can't keep him, Mara said cautiously. If the Virelians find out, they'll destroy us. I know, Jarek replied. But I can't let them kill him either. There's more at stake here than orders or strategy. For the first time in months, Jarek felt a sense of purpose beyond the mission. He had seen the cruelty of war, the destruction humans and aliens alike could unleash, but in this small life, he saw a chance to make a difference. Days passed as Jarek navigated the frontier space lanes, avoiding Virelian patrols and scavenging for supplies. The child, whom Jarek had begun calling Liren, adapted quickly. It learned human speech in fragments, imitated basic movements, and even showed a strange connection to the ship's systems. Occasionally, the sensors would flicker near it, as if Liren's presence influenced the electronics subtly. Captain, did you see that? Mara asked one evening, as the ship passed through an asteroid belt. Liren had placed its hand on the console, and the navigation systems had stabilized in an emergency situation. Jarek raised an eyebrow. It's clever. More clever than we expected. Keep an eye on him, but don't treat him like a threat. He's a child, not a weapon. As they traveled, Jarek couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching them. He reviewed the long-range scans, but the sensors were clear. Still, there was a tension in the air, a sense that their small act of compassion had not gone unnoticed. It wasn't long before the warning came. A faint signal appeared on the comms. An alien transmission, unlike any Jarek had encountered. It was formal, commanding, and laced with authority. "This is Queen Majestra of the Virillian Empire. The child in your custody is under my protection. Return him, or suffer consequences." Jarek's hands clenched the console. The Queen herself had spoken. Every fiber of his being screamed caution. Yet he knew he couldn't give the child back. Not now. Not ever. "Prepare evasive maneuvers," he said, voice steady. The Virillian fleet didn't take long to arrive. Massive, dark ships cut through space like predators, their weapons glowing ominously. Jarek pushed the iron resolve to its limits, weaving through asteroid fields and using every trick he knew to stay ahead. During one particularly tense chase, Liren slipped from its hiding spot and ran to Jarek's side. The child's small hand gripped his arm, eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Stay close," Jarek said. "You have to trust me. I won't let anything happen to you." The child nodded solemnly, a surprising steadiness in its gaze. Jarek realized then that Liren had already begun to trust humanity, even in the midst of war. Hours later, after narrowly evading a patrol, they landed on a neutral asteroid outpost. The settlement was small, composed of human traders and miners who had long learned to avoid taking sides. Jarek hoped it would be a safe haven, at least for the night. Inside the outpost, he found a secure room and began making plans. They would need supplies, repairs, and information if they were to survive the Queen's pursuit. Liren wandered around cautiously, observing humans and mimicking their gestures. Jarek watched with a mixture of pride and awe. This small alien child had survived a war zone ambush, adapted to human language, and remained calm even in the face of a fleet that could destroy their ship in minutes. "Captain, why are you helping him?" one of the outpost traders asked quietly. Jarek paused, thinking. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because no matter what species he is, he's a child. And children, they deserve a chance to live." The trader nodded slowly, understanding more than words could convey. Jarek had always believed that humanity's strength lay not just in weapons or technology, but in choices. Choices guided by morality, courage, and compassion. Night fell on the asteroid. The stars glittered coldly beyond the outpost's windows. Jarek sat beside Liren, who was now asleep, small chest rising and falling steadily. The hum of the ship echoed softly, a lullaby in the silence of space. Jarek's mind wandered to the Queen. Majestra Virillian was no ordinary enemy. She was a ruler who commanded respect, feared by her own people and humans alike. He knew that their next encounter would not be simple. Negotiations might fail, conflict could erupt, but Jarek also knew one thing with certainty. He would protect Liren, no matter the cost. Somewhere deep inside, he felt it a sense that this small child, this fragile life, could change the course of the war itself. And perhaps, through Liren, humanity might prove that courage and morality could shine brighter than any weapon. As he settled in for the night, Jarek whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else, "You're safe now. And I'll make sure of it. No matter who comes for you." "We," doesn't it said? We wake, above them, beyond the asteroid belt, the first signals of the Queen's fleet began to shimmer in the distance. And though the human outpost was small and unarmed against such a force, Jarek's resolve burned brighter than any fear. Because in protecting the enemy's child, he had also protected something far greater, the chance for understanding, hope, and the undeniable strength of humanity itself. The iron resolve drifted through the empty stretches of space beyond Erythra, its hull scarred from the previous battle. Captain Jarek Thorne kept one hand on the controls and the other near Liren, the alien child who had become his responsibility. Even as the neutral asteroid outpost faded behind them, he could feel the weight of the Virillian threat pressing in from every direction. "Captain, scanners are picking up multiple Virillian warships," Lieutenant Mara Vance said, pointing at the display. The fleet was moving fast, their dark hulls reflecting distant starlight, like predators hunting in the void. Jarek didn't flinch. He had faced worse odds before. "We'll need to be clever," he said. "They're fast. But human thinking is unpredictable. That's our advantage." The child, Liren, watched the approaching ships with wide, curious eyes. Despite the danger, there was something unusual about the way Liren's gaze seemed to penetrate the ship's walls, as if understanding more than the sensors could detect. "Captain, you think he knows something?" Mara asked, whispering. "I don't know yet," Jarek admitted. "But we'll find out soon enough. Keep the shields up. Every second counts." The first encounter came quicker than expected. A Virelian scout ship emerged from behind an asteroid, weapons locked on the Iron Resolve. Jarek's squad sprang into action. He ordered evasive maneuvers, dodging energy blasts that could slice through metal like paper. Liren clutched his arm, small fingers trembling but surprisingly steady. "Don't worry," Jarek said, keeping his tone calm. "We'll get through this." The child's eyes glimmered, and for a moment, a strange pulse seemed to ripple through the ship's systems. The shields stabilized, energy flows balanced perfectly. Mara stared in disbelief. "Captain, the systems, they're reacting to him." Jarek frowned, studying Liren. "I don't know what he is, but we're going to have to learn fast." After shaking off the scout, the fleet began a coordinated pursuit. The Iron Resolve weaved through asteroid fields, sometimes using the rocky terrain as cover. Every encounter tested Jarek's tactical skill, but also his patience. Liren, despite being a child, seemed to anticipate danger before it arrived, pointing out threats or pressing buttons that surprisingly improved navigation. By the second day, Jarek realized that Liren's abilities were more than simple intelligence. The child could interact with the ship's systems in ways that no human engineer could. He could sense danger, predict outcomes, and even manipulate controls subtly. Jarek didn't fully understand it, but he knew one thing. Liren was extraordinary, and protecting him meant more than just hiding him from the Virelians. It meant understanding him. "Captain, what if they catch us?" Mara asked quietly, as they rested in a temporary hideout near a small moon. "Then we fight," Jarek said, though his mind was already racing. "But I won't let them take him. Not while I breathe." That night, Jarek studied the child more closely. Liren had curled up on a cot, seemingly asleep, but his eyes flickered in the darkness. Jarek whispered softly, almost to himself, "I don't know what's coming, but you'll survive it. I promise." The next morning, a transmission appeared on the comms. The signal was direct, clear, and commanding. "This is Queen Majestra of the Virelian Empire. The child you harbor is my heir. Return him immediately, or you will face annihilation." Jarek's fists clenched. He had expected the Queen to respond eventually, but hearing her voice directly made the threat more real. He looked at Liren, who blinked up at him with innocent curiosity. "Lieutenant, we can't let them take him," Jarek said firmly. "We need to plan our next move." Mara nodded. "But Captain, the Queen's fleet is enormous. We can't outrun them forever." Jarek knew she was right. The Virelian Empire had the technology, the numbers, and the firepower to crush them in minutes. But humans had something the Virelians didn't: imagination, unpredictability, and moral courage. Over the next several days, the crew of the Iron Resolve used every trick in the book to evade capture. They hid in asteroid fields, traveled through unstable gravity wells, and even jumbled their navigation signals to confuse the enemy. Each maneuver showcased the ingenuity and determination of humans under pressure. During one tense moment, the fleet cornered them near a dying star. Jarek had no choice but to take a dangerous route through a region of volatile energy storms. Lightning-like discharges arced across the void, threatening to tear the ship apart. Liren clutched his arm again, and Jarek felt a sudden, inexplicable surge through the ship's systems. The energy storm seemed to part slightly, allowing them to escape. Mara gasped. "Captain, he did something." Jarek nodded slowly. "I don't know how, but he's helping us. He trusts us, and maybe that's making a difference." As they caught their breath on a nearby moon, Jarek realized that the child wasn't just innocent, he was powerful in ways that humans had never seen. Protecting him wasn't just an act of morality. It could influence the future of the entire war. That night, Jarek tried to speak with Liren. "Do you understand what's happening?" he asked gently. Liren tilted his head, eyes reflecting the starlight. Then, in broken human words, he said, "They want me." "Queen," Jarek nodded slowly. "I know, but I won't let them hurt you. Not now, not ever." The next day, Jarek decided they needed allies. He contacted neutral outposts, traders, anyone who could help them survive. At one small outpost, he met a retired human diplomat named Rael. "You're carrying a Virelian child," Rael said cautiously. "Do you understand what that means?" "I do," Jarek replied. "But he's just a child. I won't let the war dictate his fate." Rael studied Jarek for a moment. "Humans don't often make that choice. You could be making enemies of both sides, or creating a bridge." Jarek felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps humanity's courage and morality could shine even in the darkness of war. Perhaps, through him and Liren, there was a chance for understanding between species. That evening, a massive shadow passed over the outpost. Through the telescope, Jarek saw the Queen's flagship emerging from hyperspace. Majestra Virelian was coming herself. "Captain," Mara said, eyes wide. "She's here. She'll demand the child." Jarek's jaw tightened. He glanced at Liren, who looked calm despite the approaching fleet. "We'll face her. But we do it on our terms. No one threatens a child under my protection." As the Queen's forces surrounded the outpost, Jarek prepared to negotiate, fight, or do whatever was necessary to keep Liren safe. The child had already proven to be clever, capable, and unexpectedly brave. Together, they represented more than human courage. They represented a chance for something new. A turning point in the war. The first encounter with the Queen would not be easy. She was powerful, intelligent, and feared throughout the galaxy. But Jarek Thorne had faced impossible odds before, and he would not falter now. Protecting Liren was not just a duty, it was a moral choice, a testament to humanity's resilience and the spark of hope that might change the course of history. As the stars gleamed coldly outside, Jarek whispered to the child, "No matter what happens, we'll survive. Together." Liren reached up and held his hand tightly. In that simple gesture, Jarek felt a bond, stronger than any weapon, stronger than any fleet. It was a bond built on trust, courage, and the unshakable power of human morality. And though the Virelian Queen had arrived, Jarek knew one truth above all. Humanity's greatest weapon was not in their ships or guns, it was in their hearts. The Iron Resolve and its small crew braced for the Queen's approach. Outside, the Virelian fleet loomed like a shadow across the stars. Inside, a human and a child prepared to face the impossible together, proving that courage, compassion, and clever thinking could stand against even the mightiest alien empire. The first meeting with Majestra would define the future not just for Liren, but for humanity itself. The neutral asteroid outpost trembled under the silent presence of the Virelian fleet. Massive warships hung in the darkness like specters, their shadows falling across the rocky terrain. At the heart of the fleet was the flagship, gleaming with dark metal and alien symbols. On its bridge, Queen Majestra Virelian observed the small human outpost below with sharp, calculating eyes. On the outpost, Captain Jarek Thorne stood with Liren at his side, watching the enemy forces encircle them. The human settlers were tense but trusted Jarek. They had seen his courage before. He could feel the weight of the moment. One wrong move could lead to complete destruction. A transmission crackled through the comm system. The Queen's voice was calm, commanding, and filled with authority. "Captain Jarek Thorne," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "The child in your custody is my heir. Return him, and no harm will come to your outpost. Refuse, and your people will face the consequences." Jarek straightened. "I cannot give up a child to be killed," he said firmly. "He is innocent. He does not belong to this war." The Queen's image appeared on the screen, a towering figure with shimmering, iridescent skin and piercing eyes that seemed to see into his very soul. "Captain, understand this. My heir is vital to the stability of my empire. If he dies, countless lives will be lost. You cannot comprehend the forces you are dealing with." "I comprehend enough," Jarek replied steadily. "A child's life is not a tool. He deserves protection, just like any human child would." There was a long pause. The Queen tilted her head, studying him as though assessing his worth. "You are bold, Captain Thorne, and human. Perhaps that is why you have survived this long." Jarek glanced at Liren, who clutched his arm, looking at the Queen with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The child's unusual abilities had become more apparent over the past days. He could stabilize the ship's systems, sense danger, and even respond to threats before they arrived. Jarek had begun to realize that Liren's potential went far beyond what anyone expected. "Captain," Majestra continued, "I do not wish for unnecessary conflict. I offer you a choice. Serve as the guardian of my heir. Under your protection, he will learn the ways of both humans and Virelians. In return, I will guarantee the safety of your people." Jarek's mind raced. Serving the Queen was unthinkable. Yet refusing could mean death for the settlers and crew. But there was another possibility. A chance to protect the child, while also preserving human lives. He could negotiate, test the Queen's intentions, and ensure Liren's safety. "You would have me serve you?" Jarek asked cautiously. "How can I trust you?" The Queen's gaze softened, just slightly. "Trust is not freely given, Captain. It is earned. Show me your loyalty, your wisdom, and your morality. Then we will see if a bond between human and Virelian can exist." Jarek glanced at Liren. The child's eyes glimmered with understanding, as if he knew that the Queen's words were not entirely a threat. He felt the child's small hand squeeze his. "We accept your challenge," Jarek said finally. "But on one condition. The safety of my crew and the settlers must be guaranteed." Majestra's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Agreed. I will not harm those who honor this agreement." The Queen then outlined a series of tests, physical, mental, and moral. They were designed not to destroy Jarek, but to prove his worthiness to guard her heir. First, they would test his ingenuity under pressure. The Queen sent a small squad of elite Virelian soldiers to intercept the Iron Resolve during a routine maneuver. Jarek anticipated their attack and used the environment to his advantage, weaving the ship through asteroid fields and using the terrain as cover. Liren, calm and attentive, pointed out safe paths and assisted with the ship's controls in ways that stunned the human crew. Next came a test of moral judgment. The Queen projected a simulation, showing countless Virelian citizens in danger due to an artificial disaster. Jarek was offered a choice: save the majority by sacrificing Liren, or save the child and risk the simulated lives. Without hesitation, he chose to protect Liren, demonstrating his unwavering commitment. The Queen observed silently, her expression unreadable. "Your choices reveal your strength, Captain," Majestra said finally, "but your true test lies ahead. You must demonstrate that humanity can teach my heir not only strategy and intelligence, but morality, courage, and compassion. Can you do this?" Jarek glanced down at the child. Liren had already begun to trust him implicitly, responding to his guidance and observing his decisions with keen attention. He nodded. "I will do everything in my power to prepare him for the future." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then stepped back. "Very well. You may remain as his guardian, but know this failure will have consequences for both you and your people." With that, the transmission ended. The Queen's fleet remained in orbit, but the immediate threat of destruction was lifted. Jarek took a deep breath and turned to Liren, who looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. "You're safe," Jarek said gently. "For now, but we have much to do." Over the next days, Jarek began teaching Liren not only human language and culture, but also lessons in judgment, courage, and empathy. The child absorbed every word, displaying a natural curiosity and intelligence that surpassed even human expectations. He asked questions about humans, about their history, and about their struggles, demonstrating a deep desire to understand a species that had once been his enemy. Meanwhile, the queen monitored their progress closely. She was a formidable ruler, intelligent and discerning. Yet even she could not ignore the unusual bond developing between the human captain and her heir. Lyran's trust in humanity grew stronger with each passing day, and with it, the potential for an unprecedented alliance. Jarek also faced challenges from within. Some of his crew were uneasy about serving the queen in any capacity, even temporarily. He addressed their concerns openly, explaining that protecting the child and preserving human lives were the priorities. "We're not serving her," he told them. "We're protecting the future, both ours and his. Remember, courage isn't about fighting blindly. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard." The child's abilities continued to astonish everyone. Lyran seemed to sense danger before it appeared, respond to complex systems intuitively, and even predict outcomes in simulations. Jarek realized that the child was not only intelligent but potentially a bridge between species, a symbol of what could be achieved when humans and Virelians learned to trust one another. One evening, as the asteroid outpost glimmered under distant starlight, Jarek sat with Lyran and the crew. The Queen's fleet remained nearby, a constant reminder of the stakes. Yet, within the small group, there was a growing sense of hope. "Captain," Mara said quietly, "do you really think we can change anything? The Queen is powerful, and her fleet. They could destroy us in moments." Jarek smiled faintly. "We don't change everything at once. But one life, one choice, one act of courage that can start something bigger. That's what humans do. That's what we've always done." Lyran looked up, eyes wide. "Human. Strong," he said simply. Jarek chuckled softly. "Yes, child. We are strong not just with weapons, but with our hearts. And we'll need that strength for what comes next." As night fell, the outpost rested uneasily under the watch of the Virelian fleet. Jarek knew the Queen's challenges were far from over, yet in Lyran's trust, in his crew's loyalty, and in the unshakable courage of humanity, he found hope. The Iron Resolve was not just a ship, it was a symbol of what humans could achieve when they combined intellect, bravery, and morality. And as the Queen observed from afar, she began to realize that this human captain and his unusual ward might be unlike any other she had encountered. For now, the immediate threat had passed, but the ultimate test was just beginning. Jarek had protected the enemy's child, won the Queen's reluctant respect, and begun shaping the heir of an empire. But the future remained uncertain, filled with challenges, dangers, and choices that would determine the fate of both humans and Virelians. One thing was clear. Through courage, intelligence, and compassion, humanity could rise above fear and war, and in the bond between Jarek and Lyran, there was the potential for a future neither species had dared to imagine. The Iron Resolve floated silently in orbit above the neutral asteroid, its hull scarred from countless skirmishes. The Virelian fleet still lingered, but for the first time, there was no immediate threat of destruction. Captain Jarek Thorne stood on the bridge, Lyran at his side, watching the alien ships shimmer in the distance. The tension that had gripped him for weeks was beginning to shift, replaced by a cautious hope. "Captain," Lieutenant Mara Vance said, her voice quiet, "they're waiting. The Queen wants a meeting." Jarek nodded. He had anticipated this moment. He had spent days preparing not just for negotiation, but for the possibility that he might have to face the Virelian Queen alone. Lyran, though a child, had proven that his presence alone could influence outcomes. Together, they had survived impossible odds. The meeting was set aboard the Virelian flagship. Jarek stepped onto the bridge, flanked by Lyran and two trusted crew members. The alien environment was awe-inspiring. Vast panels of glowing symbols, floating holographic interfaces, and an air of authority that pressed down on every visitor. At the center stood Queen Majestra, regal and imposing. Her eyes swept over Jarek and Liren, noting the bond between them. "Captain Thorn," she said, her voice calm yet powerful, "you have proven your loyalty, intelligence, and courage. You have protected my heir in ways I did not expect. Humanity has surprised me." Jarek bowed slightly, showing respect without submission. "Your Majesty," he said, "my duty has been to protect the child. That duty comes from my own values, not from orders. Every child, human or Virelian, deserves a chance to live and grow." The Queen regarded him silently, then turned her attention to Liren. "And you, my heir, you have chosen to trust a human. That choice will shape the future of our worlds." Liren looked up, eyes shining. "Captain, help me," he said simply. Jarek smiled gently. "Always," he replied. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze intense. "I offer you a position, Captain. You will serve as the guardian of my heir. Under my authority, you will guide him, teach him the ways of humanity, and ensure that he grows into a leader capable of uniting both our species." Jarek considered her words carefully. Accepting meant serving the Queen, yet it also meant securing the child's safety and preserving the human colonies. "I accept," he said finally, "but only on one condition. The human colonies remain free and under their own governance. No harm will come to them under this agreement." The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "Agreed. Your terms are acceptable." With the agreement made, the Virelian fleet slowly withdrew from the asteroid, leaving the outpost untouched. Humans and Virelians alike observed the unprecedented moment. One human had negotiated peace while protecting the heir of an alien empire. It was a testament to courage, morality, and ingenuity. Back aboard the Iron Resolve, Jarek and Liren spent time together, preparing for their new roles. Liren continued to show remarkable abilities. He could predict outcomes in complex simulations, understand alien technology intuitively, and respond to human strategy in ways that amazed the crew. But more importantly, he learned the values Jarek instilled: compassion, integrity, and the belief that strength comes not only from power, but from choices. Days turned into weeks as the child trained under Jarek's guidance. They traveled to different human colonies, observing, learning, and understanding. Liren asked countless questions about human history, morality, and culture. Each answer strengthened the bond between them and highlighted the child's intelligence and curiosity. Meanwhile, word of the agreement with the Queen spread throughout human space. Colonists and soldiers alike were inspired by the courage and morality displayed by one man. Jarek became a symbol of humanity's potential, not just in battle, but in wisdom, compassion, and resilience. The Queen, observing from afar, began to understand something she had never considered. Humans were not simply inferior or unpredictable. They were capable of extraordinary moral courage. Jarek's choices had shaped not just the child, but the perception of humanity itself in the eyes of the Virelian Empire. One day, while traveling near a remote star system, Jarek and Liren encountered a Virelian ambassador sent by the Queen. The ambassador presented a challenge: a negotiation exercise designed to test Liren's leadership abilities. Jarek guided the child, showing him how to balance logic, empathy, and strategic thinking. Liren excelled, impressing both the ambassador and the crew. "You have learned quickly," the ambassador said, eyes wide. "Perhaps faster than I expected. You may indeed unite our worlds one day." Liren turned to Jarek. "Captain. Strong. Human. Strong," he said simply. Jarek smiled. "Yes, child. Humanity is strong not because of weapons or ships, but because of courage and compassion. You carry both now." As the months passed, the bond between Jarek and Liren deepened. The child began to understand the complexities of both human and Virelian societies. He learned strategy, diplomacy, and leadership, but also the simple values of kindness, fairness, and empathy. Jarek watched with pride as Liren grew, knowing that the choices they made together would shape the future of two species. Finally, the Queen herself visited the child in person, aboard a neutral space station. Majestra observed Liren closely, noting the child's trust in Jarek and his growing understanding of humanity. "You have done well," the Queen said, her voice softening slightly. "Not because of your heritage, but because of your choices. You have learned that strength comes from morality, courage, and the bonds you form." Liren nodded. "Captain, teach me. Help me. Lead." Jarek placed a hand on the child's shoulder. "Always. Together, we will make sure you grow into the leader you were meant to be." The Queen looked at Jarek with respect, acknowledging his role in shaping the child's future. "Humanity may be unpredictable, but it is also remarkable. You have proven that morality, courage, and ingenuity can stand against any power, even an empire." Back on the Iron Resolve, Jarek and Liren prepared for the next chapter. They would continue to travel between human and Virelian territories, learning, teaching, and building a future of understanding. The child's abilities, combined with his human education, promised a bridge between two worlds, long at war. One evening, as the stars glittered around the asteroid belt, Jarek watched Liren play with a small drone, guiding it through complex maneuvers. The child's laughter echoed through the ship, a sound that carried hope, joy, and the promise of a better future. Jarek felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had survived, thrived, and proven its worth, not through destruction, but through courage, compassion, and moral choice. And through one small child, the seed of peace and understanding had taken root. "Captain," Mara said softly, "do you really think this can last? That humans and Virelians can truly work together?" Jarek smiled, eyes on Liren. "I do. It won't be easy. There will be challenges, enemies, and mistakes. But courage and morality they endure. And with them, anything is possible." Liren looked up at Jarek. "Human. Brave. Strong," he said. "Yes, child," Jarek said, smiling. "You've seen it firsthand. Strength isn't just power, it's choices. And you, little one, will carry that strength forward." As the Iron Resolve drifted through the vastness of space, the human crew, the child, and their captain were no longer just survivors. They were pioneers of a new era. Through courage, wisdom, and compassion, humanity had proven itself. And in the bond between Jarek and Liren, there was the promise of a future where two species could rise together, stronger than either alone. The Queen's fleet watched from afar, silent but respectful. She had expected a challenge from humans, but not one born of morality, ingenuity, and courage. Jarek had done more than protect a child. He had protected the potential for peace, for understanding, and for a future where humans and Virelians could stand as allies rather than enemies. As the stars shimmered around them, Jarek looked at Liren, the child he had risked everything to protect. "We did it," he whispered. "And this is only the beginning." Liren smiled, eyes shining. "Together. Strong," he said, and in that simple moment, the galaxy felt just a little brighter. For one human, one child, and a crew willing to follow the courage of their captain, had shown that even in the darkest times, humanity could rise, protect, and inspire, proving once again that the heart of a human could change the fate of the stars.